If it's important for students to focus on SEL, some of the interviews that I've done on this podcast have raised the question of, well, shouldn't educators also do that? Here's a quote that kind of relates to that. Quote, just as positive emotions ignite the energy that drives high performance, negative emotions, frustration, impatience, anger, fear, resentment, and sadness, drain energy. Over time, these feelings can be literally toxic, elevating heart rate and blood pressure, increasing muscle tension, constricting vision, and ultimately crippling performance, end quote. Now, one way you can focus on this is, again, to focus on SEL. Another thing is this 5-step ritual that the authors describe. So the first step is to become more aware of what your body is signaling to you. So what's the physical tension? How's your heart rate? Do you have a tightness in your chest, etc.? If so, the authors recommend taking some time to close your eyes and take several deep breaths so you can focus on inhale and exhale. One of the things that Andrew Huberman talks about is parasympathetic breathing, where you take 2 inhales in your nose and a long extended exhale where you completely get rid of everything in your lungs. When you take those inhales, you try and take as big of breaths as possible to expand your lungs, and then that second inhale expands it a little bit more, so it expands the little sacs that are on your lungs, and it will calm you down. So that's one approach that you can do for this. The authors then recommend next focusing on not just your breath, but how you can relax your face, the tension in your face, the muscles, etc. The next thing that they recommend is to focus on softening your voice and speaking slowly. And then the last step that they recommended in a moment where you're like having a negative emotion, like let's say with a student or administrator or a teacher or whatever, is to imagine yourself in that person's shoes. What are they feeling right now? What are they thinking? And then reframing some kind of response in a positive way. So these are some potential steps that you could do to kind of respond in negative situations. But what approaches do you use? Let me know in the comments. I'm always happy to learn some new approaches, and I think it's important for educators to share them. Note that if you try and do something like this, it can feel forced or robotic. So over time, things can become better with more practice. This excerpt of the CSK8 podcast was from episode 201, which is titled The Making of an Educator Athlete. You can listen to the full episode as well as hundreds more by searching for the CSK8 podcast on your favorite podcast app or by going to jaredoleary.com.